Welcome, everybody. This is Good Conversations with Paul, or Chip. Some of you know me by my nickname. Episode 3. I'm excited.
Wow.
I wanted to start with the core idea that's been at the center of my work for a long time. I've come to believe over the years that we don't become who we are in isolation, and that we never have. I've learned that our identities are shaped in relationship, not just our personal identities, but our organizations, our governments, and even our built environment. And certainly we could talk about the arts as well. We are shaped by the people we spend time with, by the places we visit, by the things we care about and surround ourselves by the ideas that we take seriously or arbitrarily believe, and by the things that we choose to do. That's what I mean when I talk about relational identity. Identity is not something fixed inside us. It's something that's always forming in relationship with everything around us. And that's why I care about these relationships, these conversations that we're having like tonight. Because a conversation is one of those places where shaping actually happens. When we're not just waiting to talk, but we're actually listening, letting things land, letting ourselves be influenced. From this perspective, this isn't really an interview at all. And it's not a debate. It might be a little bit of a promotion
so far.
for the hat walk. It's a monologue so far. So it's intended to be a conversation. And this is a chance that we have when two people get to think together for a while, because we get to see what happens, how identities shift. We get to see something different. Assumptions can become unmoored from where they are. New ideas will show up. And that matters because the quality of our lives is shaped by the quality of our relationships with people, with ideas, with places and things. So, as you're listening tonight, notice yourself, not you, but anybody that's watching, and you, of course, too, all of us. What resonates with you, what doesn't resonate, what changes. Because a single conversation can move something, even slightly. And those are the kinds of conversations that I'm interested in, the conversations that don't just pass time, but actually do some good. So I'm really glad that you're here, Margaret.
Thank you for
exciting
inviting
to
me.
have you. Welcome. So we'll chat for about 40 minutes, and then at the end we'll have some time for some question and answers from the audience. And then we'll go from there. And I'm just really delighted. Actually, I've been very excited about this because I don't know you really well. We've crossed paths so many different times, but we've never really had a chance to sit down and have a real conversation about things. So
And I'm delighted to be here.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And you can stop and ask me questions too. I do want this to be a conversation, but I have tons of questions for you.
Go for it.
So let's see what we can do, what good we can make in the world today. Okay. So, why don't you start by telling me, or telling us all, when you think about the person who you are right now, not your title, not your history, who are you becoming?
You know, I think I'm becoming the person I wanted to be at 18. Because I wanted to have an opportunity for creativity. Okay. And I had a creative career, but it had its barriers. And now I can just be as creative as I want. And in the respect that I don't have to earn a living from my creativity, right. It's quite freeing because it doesn't matter really what anybody thinks about it to me.
Right.
You know, if it's something I want to do.
How did you come to recognize that it was something that you wanted when you were 18?
Because it was something I wanted at 18, but felt I went into a more sensible direction. Mm-hmm. However, it served me well and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But now is the time to do the things that you always said, I wish I had more time.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. So as part of that, do you feel like you're 18 again?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Or did you always just feel like you're 18?
I always just feel like I'm 18. Well, I was probably about, a little older than that. But, yeah, the essential person, I think, goes throughout life. It's funny because I had a 50th reunion from my college class. And when we met 50 years later, they hadn't changed. I mean, they'd changed in that they're more experienced and what have you.
Yeah.
But really, the people hadn't changed. The true person hadn't changed. The personalities hadn't really changed.
Okay. So that's interesting because I can just said that we are who we are in relationship all the time. And you're saying that these people you've met are very similar to the way they were when you met them, when you first met them.
Yes, in some ways, not in all. I mean, they'd had personal experiences which shape,
Yeah.
and relationships that had shaped their, perhaps their responses to things. But really, essentially, they were true to themselves.
So tell me what feels most alive for you right now as you think about this.
What feels most alive
Yeah.
in my life or about relationships?
About this, who you're becoming.
Who I'm becoming? I think I'm becoming a much freer person, a much less inhibited person, actually.
It shows because you weren't even giving a second thought about having a conversation here, with the camera rolling, or with people had never.
What's to lose,
You know, right? Like that.
I don't have a reputation to lose.
So, is there anything that you feel that's shifting right now in your becoming?
I think the one thing that's shifting is that I'm getting some recognition for some of the work that I've been doing, in having some orders, some bespoke orders,
Okay.
and some recognition of the quality of my work, which has been important.
Okay. Say a little bit more about that. Sounds interesting.
In what way? In that, well, I mean, I took a millinery course because I couldn't do a costuming course because of COVID. And I found a milliner because things were they closed down as far as, Ascot and weddings and things. The milliners were actually offering lessons, and I went online and inquired about a millinery course in Yorkshire. But what I didn't realise was that it wasn't online, and I wasn't going to go to Yorkshire every month. But she was able to switch gears and offered me a Zoom course.
Oh.
So it was she split the day. So it was a month, every month a day of millinery with her in her workshop. But she split it into 2 3-hour sessions, and she sort of altered. It was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to do the 3 hours.
Okay.
And it felt like a secret society, because it was all nice and bright in her studio, and I would zoom in, and from the dark of Red Deer, I would zoom into the light of Yorkshire in her garden shed, That's where milliners tend to work. And it was just a real slow progress. So I did a year of every month, and lots of work in between.
Okay.
And I would mail my projects to her so that she could evaluate them.
Okay.
And the government bought her a special camera so that she could do more Zoom.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And she had to apply for it, of course. But there were those programs available. And then I did a second year. She offered a second year. And since then, I've actually visited her in Yorkshire, and she drives up to the station to pick me up. We go and spend a day in the studio, which is what would have been my experience had I taken the course that I was applying for.
Yeah.
But
So when did you do this? When did you first take the millinery course? Is that 2020 then?
2020, yeah.
And you hadn't done this before?
My mother was a milliner. She did
Okay.
millinery. She wasn't a milliner, but she was very talented dressmaker and tailor, actually,
Right.
in her spare time. And so I had her original hat block, which was a size 21. She's got a much smaller head than mine and her sister. Consequently, the story was that when they were little girls, she was able to get her head through and back from the railings, but her sister went through the railings and not back. So, having the hat block, it was an open hat block, open crown hat block, and a bowler shape. And so you can do a lot with that. And so I had a hat block, and I was doing handmade felt hats at that point.
Okay.
And I had done some with Mum as a girl, you know.
Okay.
But not since. And then
So your interest in it started way back when you were young.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And my sister lived near a hat factory, so we used to go when I visited her. We used to go and try on hats. It was great fun.
Okay. So this isn't just a new thing. This has
Oh,
been
no.
going on for
Yeah.
at least 2 decades.
Yeah, and an interest in historical costume has been all my life, really. You know.
Okay, so here's a question that kind of builds on that. So, and maybe you've already answered it, but maybe you want to answer it a little more deeply. Tell us about a time in your life when you felt that your purpose, your life's purpose, was very strong, and when you felt it move in you and resonate enough that you still feel it today.
Well, I feel I'm having my second career. I really felt I had a good career, and I felt that what I was doing was worthwhile on a day-to-day basis,
Right.
for sure. And I felt I could be creative within that career, but it wasn't the frivolous career that I have now, so to speak. It was, you know, contributing to people's health and wellness. Whereas now, perhaps I am being a bit more frivolous, really.
I wonder about that because, you know, I was at a conference last weekend, and there was a panel, and a panel of 6 people, and they were all around sports, the Olympians and the team captains and things, and they were talking about how important funding is in the sports, right? And they were all saying, oh, it created a sense of belonging in me, and it helped me do this, and it helped me do that. And I sat there thinking, how many times I've been in cultural settings and seen panels, and they all had the exact same answer, that it's about belonging, it's about all those really important quality of life things. So I'm not sure that I buy the frivolous idea.
Well, I think it has led to belonging in that I found, you know, the people. I have a new set of friends in a way through people who are involved in creativity, especially textiles, and also dancers.
Some of them are here.
And you know, I feel that it's just opened a whole new portal into a different world for me, which I didn't have much access to before.
And so your first career,
I was a physiotherapist.
Oh, okay.
Ironically, I was involved in neurology, so, you know, brain trauma and strokes and stuff. So, you know,
just say,
hats
we'll
go.
put a hat on it.
Yeah, we'll just put a hat on it now.
You're fine. We'll just put a hat on it.
That, you know, I think it's important. The other thing that I found, actually, having done a little bespoke work now, I just delivered a hat last week to a lady in Calgary, and she really didn't know what she wanted, but she knew what she didn't want. And having met her first and got to know her a little bit, I feel I created, well, she was thrilled to bits with it, and I actually managed to deliver it on her birthday, which I didn't know. But she was actually really thrilled with it, and I think it really suited her. But I don't think I could have done that if I hadn't met her. So if you're talking about relationships, I think bespoke work is actually, it's creating a relationship with that person so that you can create something that is suitable for the occasion that they're involved in. And I like occasion hats. And also suitable for the colouring of that person, and also the style for that person. Because she looked really good in it. I'm not trying to show off, but she did look good in it, and she was thrilled to bits.
Okay.
She wore it going home, you know, and she had an event that. But the other thing that I will say is that when I created the hat for her, one of the things that's also important to me is sustainability.
Okay.
So I think if you have a hat that is a sustainable hat, if it's a bespoke piece. So for example, I gave her different trims for it. So she could change that hat. And also, you know, it could be reblocked. Whereas, and I'm also using some old hats that I've got, and I've been washing them. And can I go in my box now?
Absolutely, yes. We had a bet to see how many minutes it would take for the box to come open.
So, for example, this is an old hat, and it's probably just a little, brimmed hat. But you can see the trim has been stuck on with glue.
Yeah.
So I have a very limited area that I can use. I can't give somebody a hat with glue on it, right?
Right.
So if I make sure that all my trims are stitched on the hat, there's a few little holes, but you can brush over that. And so therefore, you can reblock a felt, and you can change it into a different hat entirely. Equally, if I stitch a trim on, that can be snipped off, and a new, if you had a white hat and you have a pink dress one year and a blue dress the next year, you can have a pink dress on it, a pink trim on it, and then you can put a blue trim on it. So I think having a hat that has multiple lives is a good quality hat.
So you're talking about the longevity of the hat and the different ways that you can extend its life.
And the different ways you can wear it.
Okay, and then also the materials that you use so that you don't wreck the hat.
Yes.
It can't be...
Yeah, and equally, I bought this dress for a wedding last October, and I didn't have this hat because I only made it last week. But I made this little hat because it was a wedding, so it's one that fits on like that, and it goes with the dress. So it makes this dress, which is a bit dowdy, a little bit more upmarket. Okay. But you only need one dress, because then you can put your trilby on right later and go to Cheltenham. So and also with this one, this band is actually totally removable. So it can just be,
okay.
Well, it could suit you now.
It does, kind of, doesn't it? I should have worn my hat.
You should, yeah. But that's, so I think a handmade hat, and they're all hand stitched, so this is all stitched on by hand, and everything else is stitched in. And this is my new thing, is to make gentlemen's hats. Hatting is different from millinery. Okay. So I haven't done much hatting. I've learned how to put these leather bands in, leather sweatbands, and the wee bows, which it determines whether a hat's a good quality hat or not, if it has a little bow.
Okay. So there's a difference between millinery and hatting.
Hatting, yeah, hatting is for men mostly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, ladies wear hats, so you can, ladies can wear a hat with a sweatband in as well.
Okay,
and,
so
and you do
have
know,
a sweatband?
Yes, but a ladies has a Petersham usually.
Okay.
Even in a hat this style generally, but you do know that the trim, generally, ladies are always right. And gentlemen are always left.
Okay.
But the way to remember it is that ladies are always right, isn't it?
Of course. And we would never say that in this room tonight.
Absolutely.
It's just like 100%.
But I also brought some other things to show you.
Sure.
So I use hat blocks. So this is a hat block, and it's covered with saran wrap in order to protect the wood, because I want this to last, so I can block a lot of hats on it. And this is a Boon and Lane block from Luton. There's only 2 hat block makers now in Britain. It is considered an at-risk craft. But I recently got some hat blocks from Latvia, and there's some new hat block makers, because this is quite a skilled art too, to design a hat block that will make a nice hat, and also to execute it, right? They're very precious and very expensive. But
so you're starting to collect hat blocks now as well?
Well, it's not so much of a collection. They're all useful. You have to have functional things in your house, But that's why I have put off making hats, because I need the different size of blocks for the different head sizes. Whereas something like this, it will fit anybody, right? So this is a buckram, which is this fabric, which is a stiff fabric, which you wet down, and then you have to stretch it onto the block.
Okay.
Very simple little block, and then a leather trim. So, and I like whimsy. So the other thing that I do is screen printing. So, there's a number of screen printers down in Calgary, and I get a chance to do screen printing. So this one, I wanted the trim to reflect the pattern I'd printed on the linen, in fact. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a cheeky hat, but it's quite nice. And these are my couture linings, which I'm quite delighted with and love making. But the different types of materials, so, that's a felt hood, but you can also get a straw hood. So that's how this hat started out.
Okay.
Right? And if you get a second-hand straw, it's so much finer. The weave is so much finer. And this is cinnamon, which is another summer fabric. And it comes from the Philippines, from the abaca plant. Again, it's wetted and you have to stretch it onto a shape like that.
Okay.
So that's the box.
So going back to this question, when you started thinking about purpose, life purpose.
Yes.
When did, obviously, this feels like it's very dear to you right now.
Oh, yes, it is.
This is part of your life's purpose.
Yes,
I
it
think.
is like past my life's
And when
purpose.
did it sort of occur to you that you should be doing this?
Because I couldn't get into a costume design program. And I went into hats, and you know what? It just feels so good. I just enjoy the journey of making a hat.
Do you think that if you had gone into costume design, you would have wound up doing hats? Or do you think what's going to happen is you're going to do hats and then you're going to wind up doing costume design? Or neither?
Who knows? The other thing that appeals to me, I've spoken about the printed fabric, doing some screen printing, but I also weave. And I'm currently working on fabrics that I can then put, so instead of leather or put a hand-woven piece. I've done some already, a hand-woven piece on a buckram base. So that's really unique. I mean, if you've woven a metre of fabric and you've just done 3 hats, I'll never weave another, because often it's a hand-dyed warp. So I'd never weave another piece like that. So I like to think of uniqueness as well.
So when you look around this room, for example, there's very distinct art, and
Yes.
if you know the artist, you can walk up to a piece and go, "Oh, I recognize that brushstroke." Are you starting to feel like your work is being that you have your brushstroke in the work?
Not yet, but that's what I'm working towards. I want to be able to. It would be nice if people said, "Oh, I think that's a Margaret Hall hat,"
Okay.
because I can pick out my tutor's hats at Ascot, right?
Okay.
If the image is there on the screen long enough. And I think that's the other thing that I really appreciated about the millinery teacher I went to was that she didn't want me to copy her work. And I was glad about that. And she actually stated in her statement of, about the course that I will not teach, and named some of the trims that are pertinent to her. Well, I wasn't interested in copying her work. I'm more interested in technique. And also when I teach, with felting, I'm more interested in teaching technique rather than, let's all copy this and do the same thing.
So are you starting to see in your own work, are you starting to see your brushstrokes? So you could say,
Yes.
"Oh, there's that. I've done
Yeah.
that before. Oh, and I've done it again."
Yes.
And so you're starting to see your own.
But I also see artistic flow. So one idea leads to another.
Right.
Very easily. And I love whimsy. I mean, as you can probably tell with this hat, I did wear this to the Spruce Meadows and enjoyed wearing it with a red dress. And I was at the counter getting some food, and the gentleman behind the counter said, "Oh, that's so cute." And so I turned around to see what was cute behind me.
Oh. That one does sort of, that particular one does make me think of like a 1940 setting where the character that's wearing that hat is maybe the villain.
Yes,
in disguise,
absolutely. But why not be a villain once in a while?
Okay, let's see what let's go. Okay, so let's talk about this one. So what relationships do you feel are shaping who you're becoming right now? And those relationships aren't necessarily with people.
Well, I think then if it's not with I mean, I do think there are relationships that I'm forming with people.
Of course.
There are some lovely people. Actually, some lovely people here tonight who I've recently met, but I'm going to enjoy, I hope, getting to know better. But I think it's the relationship with the materials, because the materials will dictate how far you can go with something. So, for example, with cinema, you can wire this, and I mean, I can create one. It's lightweight, so I can create something high, right? But I couldn't do that with buckram to the same extent. I can't, So, and one of the things I enjoy is the sort of, I haven't really got much to show you tonight, but more sculptural work. So that it's not so much the trim, but the hat is the trim in the sense that it's a sculptural piece. And what I try and work on too, which is, you can't do it with a trilby, but people like trilbies, so is that from 360 degrees it should be interesting, so that when you look at somebody in a hat, it's a sculptural form, right. And as they turn, you get a different aspect of the hat.
Yes.
Which I think is important for the sort of occasion hats that I do, right?
It reminds you of some of those pieces of art, as you're describing this, some of the pieces of art that are something when you face it this way,
yes.
But then when you turn it to the side, it's just a series of things that don't make much sense.
Yeah, yeah, but I want it to make sense all the way around.
Right.
And that's challenge,
Yeah. And do you think that you'll do hats that are not wearable? That there are actually just sculptures?
Oh no, I'm very much.
They're always going to be wearable.
I'm very much a function, and certainly if it's going to be high, it needs to be attached to the head properly. And fixings, actually, I visited Justine, who's my millinery teacher, and did a whole day on just fixings, learning different ways of creating a wire cage so that you could actually get that hat on, which is important for stage and screen, right? That you have something that stays on your head.
Do you think some of your hats will be in stage and screen sometime?
Probably never, but it's good to have something. I mean, if a lady wants to go to, have an occasion and make sure her hat stays on their head so she looks lovely, or a gentleman for that matter. Yeah.
So that's one. So the materials is one of the things that's shaping relationships,
yes.
Who you're becoming, and you mentioned some people in the room. What about places or ideas?
Yes, when I go home now to England, I always take a little trip to Luton, which is where the straw hat making from the 17th century onwards, and it died out when people stopped wearing hats, really. But it was where the straw hat industry took place. And there's a museum there, but there's also millinery suppliers there. So I like to go and look at what's current.
Is there a bit of a resurgence, do you think, is happening there?
Oh, definitely. I mean, hats are, big for occasions in England and also in Australia. And clearly in Berlin, with the hat walk, which is coming up, it's a lady in Berlin who's organising.
Tell us about the hat walk.
So there was always the Barcelona hat stroll, which used to take place on a Sunday, and it was just a celebration of milliners and hats, because it was just something to do on a Sunday afternoon, and a way to meet each other and then go and have a nice meal. And two ladies associated with the London Hat Week 3 years ago decided that there should be an international, a global hat walk, and we should celebrate millinery and hats throughout the world. So we missed the first year in Red Deer, but last year we had a hat walk, and it was really well attended. I was very pleased, and it was a lovely sunny day. And
how'd you organise that?
Sorry?
How did you organise that?
With the Arts Council.
No, I mean the sunny day.
Oh, the sunny day. Well, with the Arts Council. But anyway, and so there's 4 cities in Canada. So there's Toronto, where there's David Dunkley, who's a well-known milliner. Yeah. And then in Vancouver, which has Be Unique Millinery, which is an Australian company that has a limited amount of millinery supplies. But at least they've got a hat walk. and then it's Brampton, I think, in Ontario, where there is another milliner there. And so, and Red Deer. So I think that's rather exciting. We can put Red Deer on, on the map.
That's 4
That's 4, yeah.
in Canada.
In Canada. And there's about 60 cities across the world.
Okay.
And the lady this year, instead of the London folks, it's a lady in Berlin who is organising it. And she actually asked us to make, I haven't got them, but they'll be on display. She asked us to make hats. She asked milliners to volunteer to make hats that represented their city. So I made 2. And unfortunately, it was just too short a timeline, and they would be displayed in Berlin, which I think was kind of an exciting thing to have Red Deer's hats displayed in Berlin, don't you think?
Yeah, I do, absolutely.
But anyway, that's, so that's how the hat walk came, and we're going to have it on May the 10th, and it's Mother's Day, but it'll be 11 o'clock, and we're going to gather at the museum, and we're going to have some photos, and there'll be a little competition. And then we'll walk towards the Red Deer Arts Council office, and there'll be a display of hats. I've got a few other people who make hats, and there's a lady who actually takes vintage hats or thrift store hats, and she does really funky things with them. So it'd be nice to have a variety, not just mine. And then I'm hoping that when I've worked for a week, I'll have produced something worth seeing, and that will be displayed here.
Oh, good. Yeah, we'll do that in the gallery.
Yes, if we could, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a relationship, see?
But there you go. Yeah, I appreciate that. So tell me about, so just flip that question a little bit. If you're in relationship to hats and they're changing who you are, or I guess the bigger question is, how are hats changing people? What happens with people when they wear a hat?
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting because hats are for many different reasons. You wear a hat for many different reasons. I wear a lovely Fair toque in the winter that my sister knitted, right? And it's warm and cosy. And I wear a brimmed hat when I'm hiking. And that's the purpose of a hat. But if you think about many other ways that headpieces are worn, so, the bishop's mitre, you wear headgear for protection in different sports. So there's many reasons why people adopt certain hats for certain times of the year. In actual fact, there was a hat riot, a straw hat riot in 1922 in New York, because by September the 15th, you were supposed to ditch your straw, your Panamas and your straw boaters, and you were supposed to be wearing a felt hat. Okay. And apparently the workers were knocking the straw hats off toffs in September, and it produced a whole riot. But there's also been, I think it's, there's a sort of class thing about it too. And the other thing that is interesting about hats and ladies' millinery in the 1800s into the 1900s was, in the late 1800s, was why the Audubon Society was formed and why the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds was formed, because they were destroying certain birds, exotic birds, for their feathers. And there were some young women who said, this is not right.
For
quite
the use
rightly.
of the hats.
Yes. So, that's something that produced something that's quite good for birds anyways, in that we now have these societies that are protecting birds.
An unintended consequence of...
Unintended consequence, but there are many things where there are unintended
course.
consequences,
Yeah.
and that's just one illustration. But something good came out of it too.
Yeah. So I think, so people do feel differently when they wear a hat. I think I certainly do when I feel like I'm going to put my hat on. I feel like, okay, I'm dressed up a little bit. I'm now 6 inches taller yet, So it does feel...
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when I often encourage, a lot of people say, oh, I'm not a hat person, I don't wear hats. And if you encourage people, just wear it, I'm not trying to sell it to you. And they visibly stand taller when they've got the hat on. It's quite interesting. And it's happened many times now. And they always want to look in, and then they'll tilt it and they'll start, oh, this is kind of neat, So I think I think a hat finishes a garment for a special event. I'm not saying you should have a hat unless it's a protective hat for all things, but for an occasion, I think and you want to look your best, I think it really finishes an outfit off.
So it does a little bit with self-esteem then, it sounds like too.
I would say, yeah. Perhaps, or some people are more inhibited and therefore feel embarrassed wearing a hat, but I think if you fix it to the head well and they really can't feel it, they might feel less embarrassed, and that's where the milliner comes in.
Okay, let's see, where can we go from here? And you'll be surprised to know we've already talked for almost 35 minutes, is that? Okay. So is there anything that you're having to let go of right now in order to move closer to this future self that you're becoming?
Sensitivity in my fingertips.
Like something very practical.
I actually, I do play a musical instrument, and that demands me to use my fingertips. And I've changed. I'm using a different musical instrument. I play both of them, but one with flat fingering rather than fingertip fingering is easier when I've been doing a lot of millinery and my fingertips are quite worn.
So you're literally having to change.
Don't have the same. You need to close over a hole. You need a nice soft pulp on the fingertip. Mine's like iron now. But anyway.
Okay, that's not what I would have thought, but that makes sense. Is there anything that you've had to risk to do this move in your career, in your life?
I think I took a chance, and I bought out a milliner in Edmonton, and I can't believe what she sold me. It's incredible. I had to take everything, right? And so I had to take the dross with the good, but the good was like, it'll keep me going in hats for quite a while, I think. And yet, and there's some interesting hat blocks, some vintage hat blocks and stuff. So I took a chance on it, but it proved good. And also I took a chance on just taking these millinery classes, which weren't inexpensive, to see if I could actually, get hats on heads,
Neat. My family history is from Yorkshire. I think I might have told you that. Yes, my grandmother's from there. I kind of have this connection, even though I've never been there. So now I feel like I've been a little closer.
My milliner teacher lives near Ilkley Moor. You can see Ilkley Moor from her shed. She's got a nice shed, actually, from her workshop.
Well, I hope I get a chance to go see it at some point. I'm thinking about what has changed in you as you've embraced this new. Is it a career? Is it a new life? Is it a new personality?
I think I've always made things and created things, and mostly in textiles. But it's just, I think it's what I'm enjoying and realizing is that I'm putting many skills together to make a unique piece. And I think that's what motivates me, to make something that's unique, because, I have other skills, other textile skills that I can actually apply to my millinery. For example, the millinery, screen printing, I love making flowers, and I like, my leather flowers are quite different to my felt flowers or my silk flowers, but it's the handling of it's the tactile handling of, fine fabrics or interesting fabrics that I think motivates me. I think that's what I enjoy the most. I think textiles are very interesting to my fingers, and they have different textures, different feels, different look. I love a shot silk, which is where the warp and the weft are very different, so that you get this iridescence happening, just merely by the weave structure. So those things are interesting. And to also, you know, trying to find weave structures and fibres that work so that you can actually drape it on a form. And I think that's, you know, so it's the experimentation. I like playing with stuff, you know, and seeing what I can do. And I enjoy the fact that by being able to weave, I can make something really unique, or being able to just crochet a little motif as part of a, or felt a little motif as part of a trim. And so, yeah, that's something that, yeah, I really enjoy.
I was thinking about the first question that I asked you about belonging. You know, when that sense of purpose, when you sort of discover that moment, I often will add to that question, what was the texture and the feel and the sound and the experience of that moment? And now I'm kind of thinking, what is the hat of that moment? You know, because it feels like you're describing all of those things that I often try to get somebody to like lean into that moment and tell us what the texture and the whole feel of it was like.
And I love wool, and being a felter, I love the sculptural properties of wool. In that, you know, if you felt it hard enough, you can make a different shape from it. I mean, this one, you know, it's sculpted. It'll keep that shape unless I want to change it, because it's wool, right? You can't do that with synthetics, and besides, they're polluting the water too.
Exactly.
So I think wool, and also the smell of wool, the smell of silk, they're very characteristic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like the sustainability piece that you're talking about, because there's so much out there. You see, you know, you watch the news and you see mounds of clothes that are being discarded that sometimes never even worn. They're just last year.
It didn't used to be. That is actually quite recent that we have throwaway clothing. Right. Because I know when my brother went to university, he went to the tailor to have a suit made, and that was quite commonplace. It was the, you know, it's been the fast fashion that has come in the last 30 years, probably, maybe 50. Yeah. I mean, the D-mob suit was also the start of the manufacturing of men's garments off the shelf, the Burtons, and those big factories really were promoted because there were so many men who only had uniform, right? And so each man had a D-mob, I'm talking England obviously, a D-mob suit, and that actually, they were partially custom, but they were off the shelf. So, you know, you could, if a man with short legs could get pants with his jacket that were shorter legs, but he'd have a suit. So they each had a chance for some choice in that. But it was really the start of the off-the-shelf suiting, and it's gone on from there. But bespoke tailoring is really a very sustainable craft, you know. And we need to get back to that, but it's expensive, you know. I mean, if you can get a nice little hat, and I wouldn't blame anybody from Amazon for $40 and wear it for the day, fair enough, you know. You probably wouldn't want to buy one of my hats because I've spent...
I think like art, we have, you know, there's throwaway art.
Yeah.
You know, people go to Winners and they buy things to put on their walls, and I always like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I remember as a younger person, I would buy art before I had furniture.
Yes.
And my house is filled with art, and I just recently got a sofa.
I bought a hat stand. Actually, that was one of my... That's interesting, actually. I haven't thought about it. But one of the first things I purchased for my empty apartment was a hat stand.
See? Smart. So that kind of leads to this question. So if the best of you continues to unfold like it is, what might it look like for you and the world? Like, where are you going with this?
Oh, goodness. Where am I going with this? I want to get hats on heads. I want to have people feeling good about themselves with one of my hats.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so this is the last question, then we're going to have some questions from the audience. And this is what I call praxis. So this is, what was it like for you to be here tonight and to participate in a conversation like this. It's not about our topic, it's just
No.
about how it was for us.
Do you want me to stop talking about hats then, Paul?
No, you can keep going on hats if that's what you want to do.
No, actually, it felt good. I as you can probably tell, I do like talking and I do like interacting with other people. I also like time on my own. But what delights me is that there are faces I recognise.
Yeah.
And that is very special. So thank you
Yeah.
to everybody who came.
Is there anything that shifted in you as a result of the conversation? Did anything surprise you? Are you leaving with something that you didn't have before?
Well, I think you've made me think about my purpose in life a little bit more, perhaps, and my frivolity, and why I like hats. But I can't always explain why I like, when I start with something like this, right, and I end up with something like this, that actually delights me. And sometimes I don't quite know where I'm going. So the trim, I'm talking about hats again, but I do let things sit. So
Yes.
I'll partially do it, and then I'll let it sit, and it tells me what it wants very often.
Yeah.
And I just like that process. I like the fact that I don't have total control. The
Yes.
materials and the
Yeah.
colours and everything also have control.
That's a very common thread among creative people. They'll say that their paintings, for example,
Yeah.
or their sculptures or whatever, they have to say,
Yeah.
what is emerging here? What are you going to tell me overnight? What's
Yeah.
going to reveal itself? I hear
Yeah,
that a
and when
lot.
is it finished? I think I
So
hear
there's
that
a conversation
a lot,
between it and you, it feels like, the
It
relationship
does.
you have
Yes,
between
it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I've heard artists say, determining when it's finished is also an issue. And I think that's the same with some of the hats. Like, have I overdone it, or is it just one single feather just placed in the right place is enough?
Yeah, that's always a tricky one, right?
Yeah.
With learning to listen to the piece itself,
Yeah.
to say, I'm done.
Yeah.
Stop fiddling
Stop
with me.
fiddling with me. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, that's great.
Well, thank you, Paul.
You're quite welcome. Let's have some questions from the audience, and then we'll have a podcast. We'll have episode 3 we can put out there in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Hello.
Yeah, well, I have a question. I have a small head, and so I love hats, but hats don't love me. Like, I'm told I look good at hats, but I go to put them on and they slip down over my eyes and they fall back and the wind comes and blows them off. Is there,
Yeah, there's a simple.
obviously ideal is to buy a hat that fits you.
You need to buy a hat that fits you, but there is a solution, and that's the elastic that just goes. It's not to go under your chin; it goes under your occiput here, and that changes stability. But the other thing that you can do if you've got a hat that is too big is you can actually get, and I have some, so you can come over and we'll fix your hats, an elastic. But where the round the band, in the inside band, you can put an elastic piece in, or you can put a different band in that actually you can cinch it up a little bit at the back. Because even though heads are, the average size of a head is 22.5 inches, but there are people with 24, and Oliver Cromwell apparently had, his head was like 26 or something. He had an enormous head. Which is interesting, isn't it? A lot of trivia about hats, but certainly there are things you can do to make that. But I think you've brought up a good point about buying a hat. That's why I don't want to do Etsy and things like that, because I want the hat to fit somebody and I want them to be comfortable in it. And you can't do that by just,
It made me wonder why they weren't more adjustable.
Well, some are.
Like a bike helmet, You just got the dial.
Yeah.
A dial.
Yeah, there are some hats that are adjustable. They often have a little thread that you can, tie at the back. Yeah.
There's something about a little bow that's in the
Yeah, you can.
That's
Yeah.
so that you can undo it
And cinch it up a little. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. So there are some hats that are adjustable, but and there's nothing matter with a generic hat, and some hats come in different sizes, and you just need to know your head size. That I've got to tape measure with the sizes according to the measurement. So there are standardized sizes for hats for the certain circumference of
Now,
your head.
if somebody wanted to reach you, do you have a website? Do you have?
No, because I want to do bespoke, and I'm not a techie person, as you probably, I didn't offer to help
So they
you
just
with
come in here and we'll just give them your landline, right? We'll pass them your landline number
Yeah, my landline number. Paul thinks that's hilarious.
with the tape that records, and you push yes.
You know, isn't
And this is a true story because you told me this. I'm not making this up. She has an old one that has the
No, I
tape
don't
and
actually.
everything.
I have. It's a puff button one.
Oh, okay, you got rid of the
it's-
tape.
Yeah, I bought it in 1989 in northern Newfoundland, and it's still going strong. Whereas I've been through several others that, you know, so it's good to have things that last, including hats.
Okay, and other questions? Dawn.
People in my life who have had really beautiful hats always have a hat box that they store it in, right? And I'm curious, when you make a bespoke hat for somebody, are you also thinking about the storage, like the box, the vessel?
It's a very good question, actually, because this is a hat box that was given to me, and I can't find hat boxes anywhere. And so I tend to use just polystyrene, which I don't like using the plastic, right? Hat boxes are actually very expensive. So, if I made a bespoke hat, it would be $25 extra to have a box, which is ridiculous, isn't it? When you can, yeah. Anyway, you don't think that's ridiculous? You would pay $25 for a box?
Custom hat built for you
Yeah.
and you want a proper storage, I don't think $25 is unreasonable.
Well, maybe I should order some boxes then when I get. But actually, saying that, the boxes.
Plastic box is expensive.
Yeah. I actually bought my brother-in-law Stetson. He wanted a cowboy hat. He lives in Cumbria, but he wanted a cowboy hat. He was more interested in the box. It was a beautiful box that he came in, but he was much more happy with the box. I should have just bought the box.
Just like a cat. The cat likes the box, doesn't really want the thing in the
Yeah.
box.
Yeah. So anyway, it had beautiful pictures of, cowboys riding
So you have to
horses. and
think
stuff
about
like that.
making matching hat boxes to go with your hats.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah, would you like to do that for me?
No, not really.
Yes, there are some milliners over here who actually make their own boxes. But, that's all more time. I'm not
You
sure.
just want to stick to the hats.
Yeah, I want to stick to the hats. But, if somebody, did have somebody who wanted a box for the hat, and I offered to order them one, and they weren't interested when they knew the price, which is fine,
Make your own paper for the outside.
You could, if you want to. Are you a paper maker?
On the inside, like
Yeah.
your silk screen.
Absolutely, you could.
There might be
yeah.
a yes in the room yet. You never
Yeah.
know.
I think that's, boxes can be beautiful, right? And
Part of the whole.
it could be part, and I don't think it's outside my capability to make a box. But when I think about the time it would take to make the box, probably $25 is a good option.
What about you could order, I hate to use the word, but like generic boxes, and then you zhuzh them to make them your boxes, so you're not spending all that time creating a box.
Yeah, but it would still cost you $25 to get a box, right?
That just doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
You don't think that's unreasonable? Well,
I don't either.
people.
Not when you're spending
Yeah.
$400 on a hat,
Yeah. But yeah, I've never charged $400 for a hat.
Oh, good. Let me order my hat soon before the prices go up.
Or you increase, you just have it built into the price of the hat, and you don't tell them it's $25.
Yes.
You say it includes a beautiful
Yes.
box
Yeah.
to store it in.
The other problem I have is storage in my home because it's there's an awful lot of hats. But I'm hoping I'm hoping when I die, my nephew will. He's good at selling things, so I'm hoping that he'll just have a big sale of hats when he'll come over and sell them.
Just like an artist, it'll be worth more money after you pass.
After I pass, yeah. This is Bez Ben, who was a very creative hat maker in the US, used to have a hat distribution, I think it was what he called it or something anyway. He used to throw them from his upper windows into the crowd who gathered every spring or whenever he had his hat distribution, because he needed to get rid of the stuff.
What other questions do you have out here?
I have a question too, Phil.
Let's go first.
Well, mine's going to your process, and it's about twofold. Kind of two parts to it. When you're going to make a hat, and if you're making it for someone specific, until you meet them, do you have something in mind, like a shape or a material?
No, because I need to. So there's two things that I would ask. So I need to know what sort of hat they want. Most people in Canada want a broad-brimmed hat. They're not really interested in a sort of fascinator headpiece that and so the first thing that I want to know if it's a special occasion, and I want to know how far I can go, and I want to know if they'll trust me with designing it. For example, the lady in Calgary, when we'd met, I later got an email after she told me what she didn't want. I got an email and we'd decided on a colour for the base. She emailed me, she said, just go ahead and just create a hat for me. So I felt that maybe I'd gained the trust, and that's the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Gained her trust, that she trusted me. I mean, she tried on, I took her a number of hats to try on to get the style, and she had an idea of the style by then. And I'd always have a little sketchbook, and I draw and notate it, with what she's telling me she didn't want. And so to answer your question, I don't have any idea, but after meeting the person, I have more of an idea what might suit them. And I know certain styles now. So I think that's where I'm developing, is different facial structures demand a different style of hat, right? And
That's your physiotherapy coming back to.
well, I think that the observation skills are
Yeah.
actually what are useful to me now. That's a transferable skill, and how people move as well, is also important, and what they're doing in the hat, right?
Do you sort of mean like if someone who has a tiny head should not wear a big bobble hat? Or is it like people who have big heads shouldn't wear tiny hats? Or, you know what I think?
I think it's more the shape of the face
Okay.
for certain hats, but
Like so people with oval faces can wear anything kind of idea?
well, it depends, and the colour comes into it too, and texture. But I think as far as the small head versus the large head, for a small head, you don't want a ginormous hat or a small person, you don't want a ginormous hat that engulfs you. You want something that enhances you, right? I mean, some of the hats that you see, I'm going to be horrible, but the Kentucky Derby hats, if you see those, it's always huge, right? It's always huge. Mostly. There are some nice ones. But it's the bigness that's important, right? And to me, that's not what's important. It's what goes with the outfit, and it enhances the person. That's what the hat should be, right? So, and something simple.
It's interesting because it's like, look at me,
Yeah.
as opposed to look at my hat.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
I'm rich, don't you know it?
Well-
Or I'm a nice person.
Yes.
It's
and
kind of, it feels that way, like
yeah,
people
I
that
think it's
drive big cars and
yeah,
Really American.
it's the
feels
gross.
American, so you said.
It's the grossness of it.
The grossness.
That big is always beautiful, but big isn't. Big is often not very nice, actually. And over trimmed hats, I think, sometimes you just need a single piece put in the right place. So I generally don't put things at the side, except now with trilbies, it's kind of, when you've got the dimples, it goes at the side, right? But I think, as I get going, I'm going to be coming over the top, I think, with my trim.
Did you get your question answered? Okay.
Well, the first part, so then the second
Oh,
part,
so-
so that was like the people side. You had talked about how you also weave as well. So perhaps more of the chicken and the egg question. Are you creating that fabric to go on a certain hat? Do you have something in mind, or are you just waiting to see where that fabric ends up on a hat?
At the moment, I'm interested in the structure that will allow me to move the fabric without distorting the structure, right? And also looking at, I've done some in tencel, and I've done some in wool. One was a wool boucle, so it was kind of bubbly, and one was a tencel, which is kind of shiny. So the wool boucle would go on something like, actually it's on a pillbox. So it's something that's a day wear, whereas you could do something that's a little more iridescent, a bit more shiny with the tencel, that is more for cocktail wear, that kind of thing. Yeah, does that answer your question? Yeah, kind of.
Dawn
Yeah,
in
no.
the back, and then Eileen.
And yeah.
I see, or I notice that you are talking about new materials that you're purchasing to make the hats. And are you like going to Value Village or trying to find something wool that you might repurpose to remake or cut or use shapes, or even clothing? Are you able to use like wool fabric that you find in the store or to make a hat with?
Yeah, I don't. Okay, so I don't need to go to the thrift store because my inheritance was a lot of fabric. And when I bought the milliner out, she had all these old hats. And some were nice vintage hats, so they actually went to the cat theatre because they could be worn as is. I have no storage area. But these, very simple little wool hats, I washed them and took the trims off, and I'm using them for recreating them. So I don't have any need to go to the thrift store, but I also find that people will get rid of things to me. And so I've acquired some that way. But I also, a lot of people are curious about blocking felt, a lot of felters, and I have a lot of people I know who are felting, and they really don't understand the difference between a millinery felt and how we lay felt. And there's a difference in how you would lay a millinery felt. This is the post-industrial millinery felt. But there's a lady called Rachel Frost in Scotland who is an archaeologist, but she's an experimental archaeologist. That's a new term to me, but apparently it's a thing. So basically she's looking at old woodcuts of how hat felt was made. The problem with passing information down, it was always with the guild, and you had to be a member of a guild and you had to be an apprentice, and it was that whole process of guilds. So a lot of it was not written down. But she's actually travelled to Eastern Europe before these hat makers died, and she's got some information from them. And she's also travelled to South America and various countries there to study their hat making, because a lot of that is pre-industrial. It's made in the pre-industrial way. And we're looking at the woodcuts, the fibre, how they actually laid the fibre out was with a bow, a huge bow, and she's recreated one for herself. She's quite an interesting person. And when you look at industrial felt, they actually blow the fibre out in a machine into a big pile, which is what she does with the bow. She just makes a big pile, and then lots of heat and water compress it down, and lots of beating it up, and you make this. Because if you look at extant hats, if you look at 15th century, 16th century, 17th century hats, it's as good as industrial felt. Whereas if you look at hand felted hats that you see, that people have felted, it's kind of rough, and it has its own quality and beauty, but it's because it's the way we lay out felt in is how we're taught, which is cross-hatching it in layers. And I mean, I do that, but it's I'm kind of looking at there's different felts. I mean, I actually went to Mongolia and I spent a day with a felter, and she showed me how to do gun felt. And that's a totally different process because they use the raw fleece, often from lambs, and they just gather it all together and they put it in a mother felt and they tamp it down and then they ride across the steppes for miles with it tied to the back of a horse, and or a pony.
That's
actually.
one way.
Yeah. And it beats it up. It makes it into felt, and that's for the gers. And one of sorry, I'm going off topic, but one of I thought was kind of neat is that the raw fleece, they say it keeps the rodents away, the smell of it, which is interesting. Yeah, so they keep that in their girls. So. Did I answer your question?
Do you remember what the question was?
No.
No?
You don't have to go to Value Village or
No, right, yes, sorry.
stores to purchase small.
I digress, but it's a very interesting topic, isn't it? Eileen.
Okay, well, these creations are your babies. Have you ever had any regrets of letting one go that you just wanted to keep?
You know, it's interesting because these are hats that I brought that I actually wear. I have no problem letting go, but somebody wanted to buy this and I can't let this go because I actually wear it and I'm fond of it and I think I look good in it. And you know, I think it's a nice creation because the poppy is, you know, it's sort of what's its leaves falling, its petals falling. And, you know, anyway, when it was my first piece, so I was taught to do leather flowers, and then this is the first piece that I actually designed my own flowers. You know, I took a pattern from the teacher and recreated them to learn the technique. But then, you know, this is what I'm saying, you need to go on and you know, look at a poppy. So how can I recreate that in leather as opposed to silk? My silk poppies look quite different because you can get the transparency, you can use a silk, the quality of silk that gives you that transparent look of a petal.
Any other questions?
I have one more question. One was answered already that someone else had asked, but you said when you meet with someone to design a hat for them, you talk about like their shape, the shape of their face, their coloring, the event, everything. But do you go through a process of trying to draw their personality into, or the personality that you hope to bring out with the hat? Like,
Yeah.
does that play a role?
A little,
On the inside.
a little bit. So, for example, with a lady who, you know, she knew what she didn't want, and most people know what they don't want, but they really, you know, it's like, and it was a totally new concept to her that I was going to make her a hat that was for her, right? Because we're so used to, that's new. We go
Buying
to the
something
store,
that's
we
made
buy
for the
something
masses, right?
that's made from glasses, whereas in the past, so for example, when my mother went to buy a dress in Rochdale, we were living in Goole by then, she went to the dress shop and she tried on a dress and it was lovely. When the lady said to her, she said, "Where do you live? Where do you come from?" And she said, "Goole." She said, "Oh, I can make another one like that." Because she wouldn't make another dress for a lady in Rochdale because they might appear together. You know, so we've got out of that way. And you know, some of my mother's clothing that was, and I mean, she wasn't wealthy, but it was just, you went to the dress, I mean, she had 2 dresses, right? Whereas how many have I got, right? It was her wedding dress. And the threads had been pulled, it was a crepe, fine wool crepe, and the threads had been pulled from the fabric to create a spider web embroidery on the, you know, and we've lost those couture, well, we haven't lost the couture techniques, but we've lost the desire for those things. And, you know, my mum always looked so lovely in that dress, but she wore it for years.
And it was a part of who she was.
Yes.
And I guess that's what I'm asking, when you meet with someone, do you try to, when you leave and you're creating this hat, are you visualizing like, these are the qualities of this person's personality and essence
I don't think
that I want to bring out in the hat?
I don't think I get to know people that well in one visit with them. I think that's something you get. But for example, I've got a wedding hat to do for a lady who I know, and she's actually going to come up with her prospective daughter-in-law because it's her son who's getting married in September, and we're going to work together to decorate that hat. But that's something, and she does absolutely beautiful crochet portraits. Which is, I mean, it's fantastic just with double crochet. And I'm wondering if she might like to add a little crochet bit to her hat because it's a piece, yes. And I'm sure she could do that. And I've got some, you know, appropriate coloured stuff. And when she comes up, we'll talk about it before, but, you know.
Would that be your preference then, if you got to choose, building hats for people that you know, so you can bring their personality to life?
No, not necessarily. Yeah.
Absolutely from scratch, because then there's
Yeah.
no influence, right? Like if you're building something for someone that you don't know,
Yeah.
it could just be anything, because you're not thinking, oh, I know that she probably wouldn't like this, or she probably wouldn't care for that.
Yeah, actually, I think it's harder to do it for somebody you know. I think it's more nerve-wracking, to be honest. You know, if I'd never see this lady again and she's miscalling my hats, fair enough. But, you know, the hat falls apart. Or, you know, but I think it's harder to make something. It's harder to perform in front of family members too, and harder to our friends. So I don't want to necessarily sell something to a friend. I'd rather give it to them. You know, and so that's hard for me. Yeah.
Thank you. I think
Yeah,
you
thank you.
probably have a whole bunch of people that will want a hat. Margaret Hall for the
Margaret
closet. And I know I need two.
You need two.
I need the one where I'm feeling villainous, and I need one when I'm feeling like I've got to be really professional.
And the
And
boss.
box, yes.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. It's been
Yes.
really fun, and thank you everybody for coming. It's been lovely to have your questions and allow me to rabbit on about.
Your passion for your craft is wonderful to listen to. Yes, for sure.
We've got some very creative people here, which is
I was just
lovely.
saying to everyone, if you watch our social media, I have posted Margaret's schedule, but I'll keep posting it. She'll be here from May 4th to May 10th, and every day at 2 p.m. she'll be doing a demonstration of a different aspect of her skills. And I feel like you could probably just drop in anytime.
Oh yes,
and
absolutely.
watch the process and ask some questions.
I'm going to have a real job for a week. I'm going to come at 9. When do you open?
8:30.
8:30.
8:30 to 5:30. It's a 9-hour day.
And actually, I'm curious to see what I can produce in a week. We'll see.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
You know, Margaret, I think you missed one aspect of the hat, is to cover the bad hair day.
Yes, I did miss that. I'll have to remember that one. Margaret.
No, it was one of those ones that swap around that I wanted to wear more often, but my little head was this way. And then I have a lovely little hat, but it's like a sewn hat. So like it's nice and flowy. Margaret, but it's not a Margaret. Yeah. I always feel a little embarrassed coming with my
Yeah, bye. Thanks for coming.
See you. Thanks for coming.
She'll be here all day today, and you know, chunks, but every day at 2 p.m. she's doing a demonstration.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry.
dance class now. It's like, oh, we're not well done.